Hello, everyone. This is Helena from Typhone. Thank you for joining us today for our Partner Spotlight webinar featuring Sue from MX. We will get started here in a couple minutes. I want to give people 2 minutes to get logged in. And in about 2 minutes, I'll jump back in and I will introduce Sue to you all. Hello again, everyone. Thanks so much for joining Typhone's Partner Spotlight webinar today. As I mentioned, we have MX today, and I'm really excited to have Sue Dumbauld here with us. She's going to be presenting to you today, and we're also just, we're doing this as a two-part series. We have these every Tuesday and Thursday. Sue's doing part 1 today with us, and then she'll be back next Thursday for part 2. Sue, I'll go ahead and turn this over to you.
Thanks so much, Helena. Welcome to today's Partner Spotlight, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you about MX and the solutions available through our partnership with Typhone. Today, our presentation will be focused on being the financial advocate in today's challenging environment. And just by way of introduction, I am Sue Dumbauld. I joined MX almost 4.5 years ago and currently lead partner strategy here at MX, but I've been in the industry for almost 17 years, although it feels like yesterday that I joined. So with that, just a brief agenda that we'll walk through today, providing you an overview of MX and the value of the solutions that we offer through our partnership. We'll do a brief demo of the consumer experience and then talk a little bit about some opportunities to engage and learn more about what you've learned today. So with that in mind, MX as a company started about 10 years ago, and we've partnered with Typhone for almost 4 years now. We power more than 2,000 financial institutions and fintechs with over 40 million end users on our platform. And we're really proud to work with some of the most innovative banks, credit unions, fintechs, and digital banking partners in North America. And one additional thing, innovation is really at the core of everything that we do here at MX. So wanted to highlight that we have over 170 issued or pending patents there that we feel is a critical piece when you're thinking about a strong partnership. So I want to start with our mission, which is to empower the world to be financially strong. And that's really a tall order, especially in today's challenging environment we're now in with COVID-19. It's really drastically changed the world that we live in, and really millions have had their health and finances and occupations affected. Just a couple of stats that I wanted to share with you. The Labor Department reported 20.5 million people lost their jobs in April, which actually wiped out a decade of employment gains in a single month. And we're just sitting at just under 8% with an unemployment rate now, representing about 12.5 million Americans. And I read an article in USA Today just a few days ago that reported that more than 6 million households failed to make rent or mortgage payments in September alone. And that's really scary. And when you think about, the financial state before COVID-19, even before the pandemic started, stat shows has always shown that about 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, regardless of their income level. And 50% of Americans wouldn't be able to cover a $500 emergency expense. And so with that as a backdrop, when you think about the importance that we should be playing within the industry as financial institutions, you can really make a difference, especially now when so many people are struggling. And it's really paramount that we're focused on being the financial advocate for the consumers that we serve and provide them, meaningful and actionable tools to help support them. So with that, we really feel like the solutions that MX can provide through our partnership with Typhone can really help drive financial wellness with consumers and position you as the financial institutions to be that advocate for them, ultimately driving positive change and growth for both. So we focus in three specific areas, which differentiates us within the industry from others, and those are connectivity, data, and experience. So the ability to connect the data from multiple relationships and institutions and then turning that into actionable insights is really the foundation that powers the digital experience that consumers interact with on a day-to-day basis through your digital channels. And it's really not enough to have a product in today's environment. It's the way in which consumers are able to interact with that solution that's critical to change behaviors. And ultimately, what that does is it leads to the growth for consumers in their personal lives, as well as for the institutions that serve them. So just a little bit about each one of these pillars. First, we have connectivity. Many consumers have complicated financial lives. I want you to think about your own household for a moment and all of the different relationships that you have across institutions. So all of the different types of accounts that you have, whether that's checking, savings, credit cards, mortgage, second mortgage, auto loans, student loans, 401ks, investments, those types of things, the list continues. On average, individuals in North America have between 5 and 10 relationships that span different institutions. And that presents a really unique challenge for institutions because many institutions only have the data that resides on their systems within their four walls. And they're missing major pieces of the puzzle to truly understand the consumer's financial lives and where they can help. And then from a consumer standpoint, the experience is really disjointed. They can't get that complete 360-degree view of their finances because they have to go to multiple sites to try to piece that together. And this is where we can truly make an impact and can differentiate institutions partnering with Typhone and from others in the industry. And so with that said, connectivity isn't enough. Institutions always have had unprecedented quantities of customer data. That's really never been the issue, but most financial institutions, although you seem to understand consumers' expectations, you can't meet them due to various challenges. And a lot of times that problem continues to face institutions is that you're dealing with huge amounts of data through disparate sources and stored in different formats. And so while most banks and credit unions they really don't have a comprehensive view because the data needs to be properly mined. And without those tools to accurately make sense of the data, many institutions are lost and they can make wrong choices or they have lost opportunities to engage or provide proactive advice to their consumers. And it also causes an increased cost to serve. And again, this is where we're uniquely positioned there. And we'll talk a little bit about that today as well. And then finally, we have experience. And we truly believe that the future of digital transformation starts with that foundation of data excellence to drive better consumer experiences. And we see a pretty major gap between how companies think they're doing versus what customers actually believe that they're doing in terms of experience. Bain & Company's research showed that although 80% of CEOs believe that they offer customers superior services, only 8% of their customers agree. And that statement just goes to show how much more we as an industry in financial services need to be doing to keep our customers and members happy. So with that in mind, we'll walk through the actual demonstration of the consumer experience today. We have two experiences. We have that consumer experience where you are able to get a 360-degree view of your finances across institutions. You can see cleansing and categorization and augmentation of that transaction for an easy to view information. And then we have visualizations to help you look at your finances across those relationships. And then we also have a financial institution experience really focused on data insights and analytics, as well as targeting marketing and messaging to consumers and customers and members. And so with that, we're actually today only going to be focused on the consumer experience. So I want to switch over to our demo here and walk through this with everyone. So when you log into either online or mobile banking, the digital banking experience, a consumer can access the MX solutions. Initially, all of the internal transactional data, the accounts and transactions will be pulled forward, and we'll run that through our data enhancement engine. And all of those transactions will be cleansed, categorized, and augmented, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But one of the main primary benefits of the MX solutions is that 360-degree view for consumers. And so with that in mind, a consumer can come in here and they can click add an account. They can search for all of the institutions that we service. Traditionally, we have about 16,000 financial institutions and entities within North America, US and Canada, and we have coverage there. They would simply go ahead and start typing the name of the institution or select it from the most popular that we have, enter in basic information, the login information. They would walk through the multi-factor authentication, and then 90 days worth of transaction history is typically pulled back for those institutions that we're aggregating for. And then from here, I can see them grouped by account type, whether that be checking, savings, investments, mortgages, loans, and so on. Also, one of the primary differentiators for MX is the way in which we do our aggregation. We have multi-sourced aggregation, which basically means that we have over 50,000 connections to those 16,000 institutions. And what that does is it creates redundancy in the connection. So if something happens to one connection, we typically will have a second, third, or fourth option that we can quickly and easily switch to, which helps mitigate any disruption for an end user and improves that customer or member experience. When we're looking at all of our accounts across our relationships, we can also click into any one of these accounts and look at the transactions, recent transactions here with one-click access directly here, or I can look at a month over month how charges or credits are coming into that particular account. Where I think it gets really interesting is when we click through to the transaction level. When we're looking at the transactions, again, these are going to come from all of the various accounts internally held as well as externally held. And I can click on any one of these and view the transaction details. I mentioned that all of our transactions run through our data enhancement engine. And what that does is all of these transactions are cleansed, categorized, and augmented. So what you see just below Netflix is the way in which a transaction has come through the core processor and is being posted. A lot of times that's through digital banking. A lot of times that is printed on your account statement or your online statement there as well. And it can be really confusing. What it can do is it can produce calls or generate calls into the call center for perceived fraud. I have no idea what this particular transaction is. And so with a little research, most times it's not actually fraud, it's just the perception of that because you can't understand what that dirty transaction is that you're viewing. With our data transaction enhancement engine, we are cleansing that transaction. So here the payee information is cleansed. I can quickly and easily see that it was Netflix. We've also augmented that transaction to include the merchant logo here as well. And then finally, we categorize the transaction. And here we have industry best accuracy on our categorization. So we're approaching almost 98% accuracy rates with our categorization. And that's really a mix between human interaction and the algorithms that we've had and we've perfected over the years and years that we've been in business. And it can get even better. So if an individual wants to change that category, we can go back and say, do you want to change that category for the other 15 transactions that we've recognized and all future transactions, or is this a one-time fix? And based on that preference, the system will learn the user's behavior. And so it can get even better from there. Next, we have spending. I mentioned earlier that almost 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So something like pulling forward the spending chart here and being able to toggle between spending and income and seeing what that differential is really impactful for end users or for consumers. And I can click into any one of these and get additional details. So for instance, thanks y'all.